Tyler Keefe alongside the West Bloomfield Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers, entering your second season at the helm. An exciting year in 2023 that came really close to seeing your team compete for a state championship. How do you balance using that as motivation with also the necessity to move on and move forward with the team you got in 2024?
You know, it's a good question. Like, there's two ways to look at it. You can think like, hey, we were right there, that close to your goals, and you can kind of get complacent and assume that you're going to be back there one play away like we were last year, and there's obviously no guarantee that that's ever going to happen. So you really have to attack it as, you start over with a fresh slate, with practice starting next week, just ready to go, and just understanding how hard you have to work just to get the opportunity to be in the same position you were a year ago.
And it's interesting you say fresh slate, because in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. On the offensive side, you're returning a lot of your starters, a lot of those key players, your top two offensive performers last season in Elijah Durham and Cam Flowers, but the defensive side's a lot younger this year. Tell us about that and how you're balancing maintaining that offensive firepower, but making sure that defense is aiding what you get on the offensive side.
You know, it's funny how it works, and I guess it makes sense if you think about it. It's almost an inverse of a year ago, where we had a ton of experience on defense, which is why we played a ton of seniors, and we didn't have a lot of experience on offense. And we kind of thought the defense would help the offense get into rhythm, and offense started like, a shot out of a cannon, and our defense had to kind of catch up. So you never really quite know what to expect, I guess. We had 10 senior starters on defense, but we did have a handful of younger guys that got experience playing. Jaden Allos, Kamari Pittman, Will Espy, they all played a lot. Brody Pecor played a lot. So we're going to have to really lean on them and hope they can take the next step.
What's been their approach as you've talked to them this summer on the defensive side? The guys like Espy, guys like Edison, to make that big step forward. We saw a lot of promise last year. Guys like Jaden Allos also, especially near the end. What are they doing to take that next step?
Yeah, and you're right to mention Jonathan Edison, because he definitely fits that mold that I didn't mention earlier. So, we expect him to take that next step as well. But, they're just hungry and excited. It's hard to put in the time and the hours and be a really good player and have to sit there and watch other people play. And a lot of them were in that position last year, and they took the most of their opportunities. So now they're the ones that, are the next one up. They're going to get the first crack at it, but they just got to understand that, there's people just like them last year that are ready to step up if it's not getting done.
A year ago, we were at Rochester High School for OAA Football Media Day. You brought a bunch of skilled players, a couple of linemen. This year, you emphasized the line, and for good reason. We'll show you some footage of the linemen that were brought today. Why that focus today, and what are you expecting from them in terms of their criticality to this team in 2024?
Well, it's really what I did say to the group. It's not hyperbole. I do mean it. If you have a good line, you can be a good team. And those guys have been leaders in the weight room. They've been leaders on the fields. They've been reliable. We got, honestly, 4 or 5 of them that could be captains. It's probably not all going to be captains when it comes down to it, but just that caliber of leader. So when you put that together with their work ethic and the type of kids they are and the type of players they are, it seemed like the only way to do it, in my opinion. And like I said, the skill guys, deservedly so, will get a ton of attention for, scoring the touchdowns and this and that, but it doesn't happen without those guys.
You heard it from Harper Woods. You heard it from multiple other teams in their speeches today. The OAA, and especially in your side of the league, the Red, really prepares you for anything in MHSAA football. You're going to need that this season. I ran the numbers. Your opponents last season won 70% of their games. What do you got to do this year to have another season where you get through with 3 losses total and you make a deep playoff run?
Yeah. Well, I hope it just looks like last year, because last year was really successful, and again, just one more step away. But you're right. All 9 teams in the schedule were in the playoffs last year, and there's not many people, if any, other teams that can say that. Every opponent was in the playoffs. Southfield was obviously a state champion. I think Seaholm was in the regionals, if not the Final Four, Division II. Clarkson was obviously in the regionals against us. So, they weren't just making appearances either. They were making runs when they got there. But each week's a challenge. You get in that playoff mindset from week 1, because you have to really grind in preparation and not overlook anybody to the next week. So by the time if the playoffs roll around, hopefully we've qualified, and we've been in that mode for 9 weeks already.
Yeah, all 9 of the Lakers' opponents this season made the playoffs last year. 4 of those teams won at least 3 of those playoff games, including the eventual state champions in Southfield A&T. Coach, before we let you go, what does your team need to do from week 1, from the first day of practice coming up, to be state champions in 2024?
I would just say, really maintain their composure. They've worked hard this summer, but they have to keep that grind, to keep the mentality. Like no let up, no complacency. If we do that, I think we'll have a good shot each week. That's all we could ask for. Each week we want to go in there with like a good chance to win if we do what we're supposed to.
Coach Zach Hilbers, the West Bloomfield Lakers kick off their season on Thursday, August 29th. Family fun night at West Bloomfield High School against Clinton Township, Chippewa Valley, the Big Reds coming in to Lakers Stadium. For Civic Center TV, alongside head coach Zach Hilbers, I'm Tyler Kieft.